Yo, what's up YouTube? This is Gresnick and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we are reacting to Rye Toast, the real villain of FNAF isn't canon. Now, I don't know who he could be talking about because William and the Mimic, the two technically main villains of FNAF in the different eras, are definitely canon, so we'll figure out what he's talking about. So as always, like and subscribe to Rye Toast and myself. Comment down below anything you want me to react to, or you can join my Discord server, Gresnick Studios, which you can find a link to in my channel description. Now let's get into the video.
Scott Cawthon might have been hiding the main villains of the current era of Five Nights at Freddy's under our noses for over a decade, or probably more accurately, two side joke characters have recently been recontextualized into the main villains of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh?
Not really a retcon, just new understanding. So, are the current main villains of Five Nights at Freddy's Lolbit and Yendo? I know it sounds insane, but just stick with me. Slices, put on your aprons and let's bake ourselves a theory. Okay, I hear you. Even if you know like who Lolbit and Yendo are, the question remains, what are they? Because even in the theorist space, we're not entirely sure. So before we can discuss what they may or may not be now in the timeline, we should go over everything we know about these characters, which admittedly isn't much, and we'll save the best for last. So let's start with Yendo. This freak
well, we know Yendo's just an endo of Funtime Freddy. I don't know anything about Lolbit, they just exist.
Functions as the Golden Freddy equivalent for Sister Location, aka a weird bear that can sometimes appear randomly, and if you look at him too long, you die, but if you put your screen up and down, he goes away. Now, for a while, I actually thought he only appeared in Custom Night, but wouldn't you know it, there's a very rare Easter egg where he can appear somewhere else in the game, specifically in the Funtime Foxy Auditorium. There's actually a 1 in 1,000 chance every flash you make that you'll see this instead of Funtime Foxy, which, I'm gonna be honest, that's horrifying.
Yeah,
like imagine playing this game for the
scarier.
first time and expecting either Funtime Foxy or nobody, and then this fucking thing's there. But again, even in this moment, he is just like a weird bear that appears and then disappears. Visually, I guess it's supposed to kind of be like Funtime Freddy. After all, it's definitively a Freddy silhouette with a Sister Location endoskeleton, but the endoskeleton is slightly different from Funtime Freddy. Not to mention the upside down screw top hat, which is honestly kind of cute, and the yellow eyes, which are distinctly different than Funtime Freddy's blue eyes. Yellow eyes possibly leading to the assumption that the name Yendo is supposed to mean yellow endo. Possibly a reference to the fact that Golden Freddy's file name in FNAF 1 was Yellow Bear. Again, possibly. He's a weird guy that doesn't make a lot of sense. But as far as I'm aware, he only ever showed up one other time in the entire franchise, in Help Wanted 2, when they were remaking the Funtime Freddy minigame. Which, by the way, this is a way better version of that kind of a minigame. But in Help Wanted 2, the hard mode variant of the Funtime Freddy Breaker Room is done with Yendo instead of Funtime Freddy.
Yeah,
and for reasons we'll get into later, it's really interesting that the only other time that Yendo has shown up is in Help Wanted 2. So now let's move on to the other character. One of my favorite FNAF characters of all time, Lolbit. Lolbit is again a character that seems exclusive to the Sister Location Custom Night, but actually can appear at a rare Easter egg throughout the rest of the game. Specifically, Lolbit's mask, which can replace the Eddard mask at very rare instances in the main lobby of Sister Location.
Interesting.
Well, I call it a lobby, it's this main room that you're doing the shocking in. They are this Funtime Foxy animatronic, but with a palette swap. A really cool color palette actually, hell yeah non-binary flag, and they're mostly known from the Custom Night, where they can appear randomly on the monitor with a be right back sign, and to get rid of them you have to type LOL on your actual keyboard. Like not in-game or anything, on your physical keyboard playing the game. And that's typically how they remain in other appearances. When they appear in Ultimate Custom Night, you have to do the same thing. However, in FNAF World, they're not an antagonist. They're actually a shopkeeper for the bite shop, which makes sense. All the time, though, being some sort of digital manifestation. Even in FNAF World, they're selling computer bites. Except possibly for 5 Laps at Freddy's. We don't know definitively, because the game isn't out yet, and who knows if it'll ever come out, but there seemingly was plans to have Lolbit be the shopkeeper for 5 Laps at Freddy's, with one of the most adorable models I've ever seen. I love this model so much that I actually had a friend of the channel, Spencer. I asked him to make me a render for my Twitter profile picture, which I used for nearly a year. I'm getting off point here. Lolbit and Yendo are these two weird characters from Sister Location that never really seem to make that much of an impact. They feel like Easter egg characters in their own game, like a reference you're maybe supposed to catch, but it's to itself. Hell, the only time we physically see Lolbit even have a full body is in the Funtime Foxy Auditorium minigame in Help Wanted, the in-universe video game, so we've never even seen a physical animatronic for Lolbit. There's just been a question mark about their existence in its entirety ever since their inception. A couple years back, I made a video on which animatronics may or may not be real, and on the thumbnail is Lolbit, because like what is it? I reasoned that Yendo might exist because it's basically just a spare endoskeleton, but Lolbit has no good reason to. Or is there? Well, let's summarize everything we know about them. Funtime Freddy is primarily an endoskeleton, can morph its shape in some way, has yellow eyes, and if the blueprints for Funtime Freddy are anything to go off of for this thing's capabilities, it can mimic voices. And for Lolbit, they are primarily a digital entity. They have some sort of intelligence baked into them.
Oh. He's gonna argue this is the mimic. Okay. I can see it already. This is the mimic. Okay.
Them, I mean, you have to use your physical keyboard to fight the thing, and they're related to Foxy. So are there any two characters that line up with this information? Well, yes, because it kind of sounds like the mimic! What's important to remember here is that we now know the Sister Location bunker started off as an underground laboratory built by Edwin Murray under his private house, at least according to Fazburger theory, the theory that pretty much every location we've seen in FNAF has been on the same plot of land. First it was Murray's Costume Manor in this big parking lot, linking that then to the Help Wanted Curse of Dreadbear lobby, where we see Fall Fest taking place at a lake in a valley with the FNAF 4 house on a hill in the distance. Once you know it, in Secret of the Mimic, what do you see in the valley right next to where all of this is? A lake. And then because there's the underground pizzeria at MCM, we can likely assume that the security breach pizzaplex was built on the same plot of land because there's the same underground pizzeria. So on and so forth. All this to say, that underground pizzeria is connected to a series of underground laboratories that lead up to Edwin Murray's house. So, looking at Sister Location, going from the FNAF 4 house down an elevator, and then you're in a laboratory, it makes a lot of sense that William Afton didn't build the Sister Location labs from scratch. When he inherited this land, he simply renovated those laboratories to suit his purposes. So why does all this matter right now? Well, if Lolbit and Yendo are found in the Sister Location bunker, then that begins to line up with what we know William Afton did after Secret of the Mimic. I've been positing that the Funtime animatronics are William Afton's best attempt at recreating the Mimic after he obtains it via Secret of the Mimic. Now, it's not as good or as functional, but it's a pretty good replica. They can mimic voices and change their shape in many ways. And clearly they can morph into other things, as we see with Ennard. So if William Afton was spending all of his time studying the Mimic and trying to understand how it works, the question remains, where is the Mimic in all of this? Where's F10N4 / M1 / Fiona, the caretaker of the Mimic as last we see them? Well, that comes down to another theory, which I'll link right here for full evidence, but to briefly go over it, let me show you the prototype Freddy's Pizzeria. See this layout? Now let me show you the private office and Sister Location. Seem familiar? The theory posits that this is the same room. After all, we know that this room is connected via tunnel to the rooms that eventually become Sister Location. So the idea that sister location
It's
is
not
connected
perfect.
via private office to this pizzeria makes a lot of sense, especially if William Afton was trying to study the Mimic. We know that William Afton knew about the Mimic because of Secret of the Mimic. God, I've said Mimic so much and it's not even about that guy yet. But if he can keep it contained in the pizzeria, which it seems like F10N4 was able to before Arnold messed everything up, then he can safely sit in that private office and observe the Mimic to learn from it, which would mean the private office and sister location is where the Mimic and F10N4 were remaining and residing. And wouldn't you know it, but where are Yendo and Lolbit prominently found in sister location? The private office, the same area where custom night happens. Almost like before Scott was really thinking about the Murrays or the Mimic or anything like that, he had this idea of an observable endoskeleton able to mimic voices and a digital entity, both remaining inside of a side private office of sister location. And then when trying to link the modern story to the original games, there was a very suitable connection for Fiona and the Mimic, in that
I see
Lolbit
it.
was actually Fiona and Yendo was actually the
It's
Mimic.
kind of
Now, am I
insane,
saying this
though.
was the plan all along? Fuck no. But I think
Scott
it's
doesn't make
legitimately the
plans.
plan now. Do Yendo and Lolbit make any sense as characters in the FNAF timeline?
No.
They're basically non-canon. But if looking back, they're meant to represent the Mimic and Fiona. After all, in-universe, a random guy made this game based on what Fazbear told him. Everything starts to line up. I mean, think about it. A digital variant of Foxy is being used to represent a digital version of somebody who created Foxy. Just combine the boards we made earlier. The Mimic is an endoskeleton with the ability to
This
mimic voices,
works,
the
but
ability
I
to
don't
change
like
his
it
shape
for some
somewhat,
reason.
and yellow eyes. And F10N4 is a digital entity with some sort of intelligence and a link to Foxy. I know it sounds crazy, but I legitimately think if Sister Location were released today, Lolbit would have been Sun, the representation of F10N4, and Yendo would have been the Mimic. And I think when Michael Afton went down into that Sister Location bunker, he would have encountered them both if he had gone in that private office. And that's why when Henry inevitably goes down there to begin planning for FNAF 6, the Pizzeria Simulator trap, he has to deal with and contain the both of them underneath it before he can get started. And what all this means for the timeline? The Secret of the Mimic ending that makes the most sense right now is the bad ending where Arnold gets stuffed into a Freddy suit. After all, we see the Mimic and Fiona in that room at the end of the game, which is where William Afton would have found them. Man, I think I'm officially losing it.
Yeah.
It really sounds crazy. But
This sounds
Lolbit and Yendo
absolutely
line up
insane.
so well with F10N4 and the Mimic.
It does weirdly line up to the point where I kind of hate it, but it makes sense. That's weird. But they are such weird characters, and they are never given an explanation. Why would they have Lolbit? I mean, Yendo kind of makes sense, but why would they have Lolbit? And then these these characters mash together so well.
It feels crazy. Let me know if you think I'm onto anything in the comments
think you're
below,
onto
or if I've
something.
officially lost it. In the meantime, if you haven't yet, you really should watch the video on how this room and this room are actually the same room. There's a lot of really strong evidence going into that theory, and even if this is wrong, that feels right. In the meantime, if
Alright. Well, good video. This theory's kind of insane, though. But as always, like and subscribe to Fried Toast and myself. Comment down below anything you want me to react to, or join my Discord, Gresnick Studio, which you can find in the description of my channel, to put reaction suggestions, memes, and other stuff. So, as always, have a good day, night, and afternoon, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.